Hello again, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Cotton Grower Magazine's Cotton Companion podcast. I'm Jim Stedman, editor of Cotton Grower, and with me, as always, is my colleague and friend, Beck Barnes. Well, Beck, as usual, the Cotton Companion butterfly effect is still working. All we had to do was spend the better part of last week reporting about how cooler, wet conditions were stalling out cotton planting in many parts of the Cotton Belt. And lo and behold, the weekend and early part of this week brought that warmer, perfect planting conditions that growers have been waiting for. So once again, you want to see a change in almost anything related to cotton production, apparently all we have to do is talk about the opposite on the podcast.
Yeah. Is it a butterfly effect? If we were gambling, you would say always fade what the Cotton Companion hosts talk about, because we generally say if we mention it, things are going in the opposite direction. That used to work pretty well. I can remember a few times where when we talk about drought there in the Southwest, and then you would or one of the editors, you or I, would take a trip out there, and there'd be a little pocket of rain in a little bitty town.
Yep.
Well, little half inch of rain, quarter inch of rain, in Whiteface, or I don't know, whatever little town we went to out there. So anyhow, sometimes it's good. Definitely don't base your practices in the field off of what we tell you the weather's going to do, though.
No, not at all. Not at all. We watch the weather just as much as anybody else does.
Yeah.
And to be sure, the recent reports that we got from our contributing crop scan consultants, pointed out that, pointed out the impact this recent weather was really having on cotton planting. And most of them were still calling for a little bit of patience for growers. But the general consensus was when conditions were right, growers were going to be ready to go and go quickly.
Yeah, that patience went out the window, as we're about to see.
It did go out the window, definitely. And really, all you had to do was look at USDA's crop progress report for last week to see the planting progress that was made in many states. I think overall cotton planting jumped 7 percentage points up to 22% across the Cotton Belt. Really just one tick off the 5-year average for the date. When you look at some of the individual state increases in the past week, it gets really impressive. Missouri jumped 35 points from 5% up to 40%. Louisiana went from 17% to 40%. Arkansas went from 9% to 30%. Mississippi jumped from 4% to 25%. And Arizona just kept its percentages rolling with another 20-point increase.
Yeah. I would just jump in there and say, Jim, you and I know well, it was 90 degrees here over the past few.
Oh yeah,
here in Memphis. So yeah, it makes sense to hear a lot of those Mid-South states being the big jumps.
Yeah, and it's all of it's good news.
Yeah.
And I think it's even better to finally say that planting is now reported in all of the 15 cotton producing states, says USDA. And if this weather holds, and even though there are some scattered showers forecast in certain areas, and I think it will be scattered at this point, those planters can make up a lot of ground pretty quickly. I think Tucker Miller noted that, if all this will settle out and the cold weather move ahead, they can get all their cotton planted in 5 days.
Crazy to think about.
It is. And of course, our fingers are still crossed. There is also a little bit of rain in the near-term forecast for West Texas. That would be great. That would certainly help kickstart planting off in that important region, considering I think their window opens officially maybe next week for planting. So anyway, the 2023 season is now officially off and running. And because of that, we thought it'd be a good time to get a grower's perspective on the start of this season and some impressions of what this year could potentially mean at the farm level. We're going to visit with our good friend and longtime industry expert, Keelan Golston, who is now happily managing his family farm near Baldwin, Mississippi. And despite what he may say, he is certainly no ordinary cotton farmer. And we look forward to seeing what he has to tell us today. Before Keelan joins us, though, those of us here at Cotton Grower have a request. Our Cotton Kids page is one of the most popular features in every issue of Cotton Grower magazine. And over the years, it's become every parent's and grandparent's opportunity to showcase their favorite kids and to get a few bragging rights in the process. Now, submissions of Cotton Kids photos have really been amazing this year, and we certainly appreciate those who have shared photos with us. But as we're moving into our summer and early fall issues, and really beyond that, we need more photo submissions to help us highlight some of the cutest kids in the world. So we're asking you to grab those cameras and cell phones and send us your best shots. An open cotton background is great, but it's certainly not necessary. So here's what you need to do. Number one, we're only accepting electronic submissions for Cotton Kids photos now. So please attach a high-res photo file in an email to me. That's at jstedman, JSTEADMAN, at meistermedia.com. That's meistermedia.com. We'll store these photos in the order in which they're received for use on the Cotton Kids page. Make sure to include contact information for yourself, your hometown, and identifying information for any children in the photos. We also need your expressly written permission granting Cotton Grower Magazine the ability to use your photo on the Cotton Kids page. As always, please note that special precautionary measures are taken to ensure safety and protect the identity of all submitted photos. All this information you can find, if you need to refresh your memory, you can all find it on our website at cottongrower.com. Thanks for helping us out and for making all those grandparents happy. We're looking forward to seeing your photos. Well, now we're pleased to welcome Keelan Golston, cotton grower from Baldwin, Mississippi, into the Cotton Companion virtual studio. I will decline to say how many decades Keelan, Beck, and I have known each other, for fear that someone might start ciphering how old we really are. So, Keelan, despite that feeble introduction, welcome to the Cotton Companion.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Look forward to visiting with you and Beck this afternoon.
Yeah, Keelan, gosh, man, I'm happy to have you here. By way of just giving some context to our listeners, the first time I really got to start spending some time with Keelan, I was going around the country and visiting with some Delta Pine NPE growers, and Keelan was kind of leading that program at the time, so I got to know this big fella who'd be standing out in the middle of a cotton field in South Georgia or the Boot Hill of Missouri or West Texas. He was an early adapter of an iPad. He was always plugging data into his iPad. And then a few years later, I got to go spend an afternoon on his farm there in Baldwin, down near Tupelo. And it was so interesting to me to find that Keelan, the people in the little community around there had discovered that Keelan had this green thumb too. So he wasn't advising cotton farmers anymore. It was neighbors coming over asking about, all sorts of different plants. So, I always enjoyed that about Keelan. He's always been curious about nature and has a wealth of knowledge to show for it after many years. So, man, I'm happy to have you here. And I wanted to start there, Keelan, by talking about your farming operation. You are now strictly farming. You're not working for any brand or company at the moment. And so, tell me a little bit about that farm. How long has it been in your family? Tell us about your acreage. What's your crop mix? All that good stuff.
Well, Beck, I'm actually the fifth generation to try to hold on to this farm. It's been in the family a long time, and hopefully with all the kids and grandkids, it'll stay in it for a few more generations. We're in the hill country, so we farm corn and cotton is about what we do and grow crops. We used to grow some corn and cotton. Rotation works really well. We try to go at least 2 years in cotton and then a year of corn. Sometimes we'll go 3 years in cotton. We've got about 140 mama cows that we mess with, and really we got a lot of land that we can't do much of anything else with. It's either would be in trees or in cattle, and I like messing with a cow. So that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, that's plenty enough to keep you busy. I know. I guess for the purposes of this podcast, though, we'll kind of hone in on that cotton crop. And I know it's been a slow start for a lot of growers in terms of planting. It's kind of been cool and wet through much of April around here. And we should say, you're not too, when I say around here, our listeners know I mean Memphis. but you're not too terribly far from us. You're only about an hour kind of southeast of here. So where do you stand on planting progress right now on your operation? And when will that planting window close for you?
Well, we've got everything that we had all prep work done on. We've got it planted. We should get done. If we could get till Sunday, we'd be close to getting wound up. We're having to go back in and get prep the land and then plant, and that slows the operation down. But we're making good progress. It's just now getting dry enough in some places. A lot of our farm is in 20 Mile Bottom, and that's just pretty wet ground to start with. So we're making good progress. We should get done, like I said, this week if we can miss those rains tonight and tomorrow. We got about 6/10 last Sunday.
Well, Keelan, as Beck mentioned, you've been involved in this industry for more than a few years. As a grower, what sort of challenges are you dealing with this year? Anything more than usual?
Years of working with Delta Pine and talking with growers and especially NPE growers over the last 16 or 17 years, planting rates and those kind of things. And, we may have been blessed that it stayed wet while it was cool, because we didn't get a lot of cotton planted, not very much cotton at all planted in April. And I really think that's a good thing, because the soil temperatures were so cool that I feel like we would have had a lot of chilling injury had we been dry enough and planted into those cool temperatures. Now then, we've got great temperatures. We get the cotton in the ground. It's going to come up quick, 5 to 7 days, I would say right now. And that means you're not going to have the seedling disease. You're not going to have chilling injury to those roots. And you're just going to develop you're going to develop a plant quicker, but you're going to develop a much healthier plant now than you would have 2 weeks ago.
Well, obviously, you still have a lot of friends and contacts across the cotton industry. What are you hearing from folks in other areas about this year's crop?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that farmers, myself included, have had this year is trying to figure out where to go to have the highest possibility of profitability this year, because all commodity prices have weakened considerably, and while some of the input prices have come down, a lot of them had. So this is one of those years, and I told my boys, this is one of those years where you got to dot all your I's and cross all your T's, because it looks like right now it's going to be one of those years where profitability is going to be a little bit harder to come by than it has the last few years. If God blesses us with a good year and we make a good crop, the profitability will be there. We're going to need a good crop this year to come out and make the kind of return on the investment that we look for.
Well, obviously, you still have a lot of friends and contacts across the cotton industry. What are you hearing from folks in other areas about this year's crop?
Well, I think most of the southern part of East Texas up through the Brazos Bottoms has gotten a real good start this year. In fact, I talked to one of my friends down there last week, and their cotton's up, growing, looks good so far. Pretty light pest years for them so far. The southeast, South Georgia, South Alabama, probably 2 weeks late, but they're making really good progress right now. I would say the part that's probably behind further than anywhere else is the North Delta, the northern Mid-South, say, maybe Highway 8 North. If you go there up from Grenada North, it was just been a little bit wetter, but we still got time. I don't really worry about cotton until May the 20th. Then I kind of, after May the 20th, I kind of start looking at planting rate and what variety I'm planting. I want to get something a little bit earlier season if I get much past May the 20th.
I'm with Beck. Obviously, I've been to your farm and we've driven by some fields and things like that. And I'm trying to recall, do you have any irrigation on your farm at all, or are you all dry land?
We've got a small amount of irrigation. down in the bottom, but mostly it's dry.
Okay. Looking, I know we've had a lot of rain recently, and California is certainly, washed out of its drought in a big way. Is water going to be a big issue this year outside of the high plains and maybe other parts of the Southwest? What about mid-South, Southeast? Are we still in that same category of we're only 10 days away from a drought?
Well, we're going into this planting season with a good soil moisture profile, and that, especially with cotton, it'll carry you a long way. One of the reasons that I think that cotton is so popular with me on my farm is because it is the most drought-tolerant crop I know of that we can grow. And if we can start out with a good soil profile and get just a couple of timely rainings, we'll be in pretty good shape. Last year, I guess the best way to answer that question is last year was one of the driest years that I can remember in recent history for us here around Baldwin, and we had the highest cotton yields on this farm that we've ever had. Small rains throughout the year. We didn't get those 2 and 3 inch rains like we'd been getting the 4 or 5 years before, but we get a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch, and it was just what the cotton needed. We had a lot of clear, radiant sunshine and open days, and that's what it takes to make really high yield.
Well, I got one last question for you, and I'm going to be curious to see what your answer is on it. We're all part of this industry, and it's a really, really great industry to be part of. But what is it about cotton farming that makes you happy, Keelan?
Well, if I could make 3 bales and get $1 a pound, I'd be a lady every year. I tell you, the thing that I love about cotton is you farm it from the day it comes up till the day you harvest. I can take cotton and I can manage it. I can make it earlier. I can make it later. I don't know how to do that with soybeans or corn. I manage the insects throughout the year. And y'all both know there's nowhere I'd rather be than walking a cotton field and learning from that plant about, what it's done and what it needs to continue to do well. So I just love it because of that aspect of it returns to you good things if you spend time with it and manage it.
Well, I tell you, here's hoping it's a happy season for you, Keelan, and for all the other cotton growers out there this year. Thanks so much for taking time to visit with us today. And man, if we can make it work, I think Beck and I would love to come back out and sit on the front porch and walk some fields and visit with you later this season.
I look forward to that. We'd love to have y'all. I'll even see if Miss Teresa will cook lunch for you.
Oh, there you go.
I'm all in.
Yep.
Say no more.
Yeah, we'll start comparing calendars pretty soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Keelan.
All right. Thank you, Keelan.
Thank you.
So, all right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to thank Keelan Golston for sharing a grower's perspective with us today. And as always, we want to thank you, our dear listeners, for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. And if you like what you've heard, please be sure to spread the word and tell your friends about the Cotton Companion podcast. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
Cotton Companion Podcast is produced twice monthly. Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson are talented colleagues at the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Jim Stedman. He's Beck Barnes, and we'll be back with you in 2 weeks with the next episode of the Cotton Companion. And remember, get those Cotton Kids photos to us. We'll certainly be watching for them.
Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer. Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer. Yeah, God bless